Hey family, happy Sunday. Do you know that this is now our episode 7? This is episode number 7 of our Fancy Thoughts, where we are fostering achievement, never compromising you. I am so honored that you are on this journey with me and that each week you are tuning in, and I pray with expectation and confident hope that you are getting something that you're able to apply either personally in your own life or be able to tell someone else about it and it personally impact them. But I thank you again for being on this journey with me. I so appreciate your likes, your comments, your text messages, your shares, and your subscribes. They are such a blessing to me. And as always, these are always available for you on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And the links to my YouTube are in my bio. So I encourage you, check out any of the past ones you may have missed. Share it with someone else that you think may benefit from them as well. As you already know, or if this is your first time joining us, my name is Francesca Hampton, and I am the founder of Live Fancy Life, fostering achievement, never compromising you, where my truest desire is to help you to recognize the greatness that's on the inside of you and help you to not only know that it's there, but position yourself position yourself to be able to share what's on the inside of you with someone else, but without compromise. Don't compromise who you are, because you were made excellently and you were made intentionally. And so the very thing that's on the inside of you is intended on purpose to bless and impact the life of somebody else. So again, I'm keep mentioning it until it comes to pass, but my business is launching later this year. Until then, I want to continue to bring these to you. Fancy thoughts to help you foster achievement but never compromise you. And so, without further ado, let's get to this week's Fancy Thoughts. Our first one is actually coming from I was like, what is that? Sorry. I'm going to leave this in there too, just because I want you to see that these things are real. Anyway, came from a devotional I was doing with a few girlfriends of mine, and it was talking about busyness, and it was talking about breaking the habit, if you will, of busyness. And that's something that I have been a perpetual criminal, if you will, of, is just being busy. And so today's first fancy thought is to make sure that your why is connected to your identity and not connected to the opinions or expectations of anyone else. What do I mean by that? You do something and you do it well. As we talk about with Fancy Thoughts, we want to foster achievement and we want to never compromise who you are. And we've been talking about knowing what it is that you do well. We've been talking about being the authentic you. We've been talking about just starting and getting out there and doing what you've been created to do, what you desire to do, what you've been dreaming about. But I want to make sure one thing, that you do what you do because you know that that's what you were called to do, designed to do, desired to do, dreamed to do. And not because you're trying to prove to anyone else that you can do it, that you're not trying to meet anyone else's expectations of who you should be or what you should be doing. It has to be because it's what you were created to do. And when you know that it's what you were created to do, or it's on the path of your discovery of what it is you were created to do, then it can become your motivation, it can be your inspiration, it can be your push, because there's going to be times when you're going to be faced with challenges, you're going to be faced with trials, you're going to want to quit, you may reach some failures or experience some moments of failure, but the only way it becomes a complete failure is if you give up. And so when you know that you're doing what you were created to do, what you were designed to do, what you desire to do, what you dream to do, then you get to push through those moments of challenge and even discouragement or whatever you may be facing that may not be on the good side. You press through it because it's connected to who you are. Who you are is not defined by what you do. Who you are is who you are if you did nothing at all. And because of who you are, it can motivate, encourage, enlighten, empower, ignite something on the inside of you to do something great. But you don't do something great to define, to prove who you are. You already are great. Whether you do another thing or not, you are already great because you were created by the great Almighty. And there's nothing you can do to change that. And so what we're doing is we're focusing in on those things that will help us bring that greatness out. So again, just to reiterate, the main point of that is make sure that you're doing what you do because it's connected to who you are, the great one that you are, the great and mighty person that was intricately, perfectly, wonderfully made by the Father. And that out of who he calls you to be, who he says you are, you do what you do. And not because of anybody else's expectations, not because of anybody else's opinions, and not because of an intention or a need to prove to anyone else or even yourself that you're good enough or that you can do it. Do it because you were created to do it. Take the pressure off. All right? So that's our fancy thought number one. And our next fancy thought is making sure that what you're doing in those same moments of challenge, that you're daring to believe. So a few years ago, as I've mentioned once before, that the concept of live fancy life started many a year ago, and it's went through different metamorphosis, and went through different concepts, and it's continued to grow until this year it becomes true life, right? And I ran across an article that I wrote as part of a series I was doing. And let me tell you, first off, I'm just amazed at how God just does things. And you look back like 2014, 2017, and you're like, God, I didn't even know I said that today. And you showed that to me 4, 5, 7 years ago. Anyway, so this one, I have it here with me, so you see me looking off to the side a little bit, but it was talking about daring to believe. And the main thing that I saw in there that I wanted to remind you is that many times the reason we hesitate in doing things is because our trust is in our own ability to make it happen or succeed. And many times the reason we give up after praying about it, after believing for it, after striving or beginning, is because we were unsure about it in the first place, or we lost our confidence. And so the fancy thought that I want to bring to you today is, again, dare to believe. But where is that belief and that trust? Dare to believe in yourself, that you were created with enough ability, confidence, and boldness to get it done. Dare to believe in the one that called you, created you, and designed you. And as a believer, that's God Almighty. God created you amazing. He created you with certain abilities, talents, and gifts, but he created for you to accomplish what he designed you to accomplish in partnership with him and not separate from him. And so when we come against when certain things come against us, certain challenges come against us, our tendency to think is that, I must not be doing the right thing, or God must not have wanted me to do this, because if it's the will of God, it'll happen. Hey, guess what? The will of God still requires effort. It still requires you to push past some things, make it through some things, overcome some things. As my pastor often says, in order to overcome, it means you have to come over some things. And so it means you got to press in. You got to keep going. Don't give up because it's hard. Don't give up because it's challenging. But make sure that your trust is not in your own ability to get it done. Because trust me, if that's what it is, you will tire out and you will bomb out. Because you aren't created to handle all the pressure of the success of everything on your own shoulders. You were created to be in partnership with God Almighty, and that he takes on the burden of making it succeed. You take on the burden simply of being obedient and doing what he tells you to do. So again, as a recap, our 2 fancy thoughts for today: make sure your why is connected to your identity, knowing that what you do is because of who you are and not because of anyone else's expectations or opinions, and not in an effort to prove it to anyone else, including proving it to yourself. And secondly, make sure that your trust is in him. Make sure that you are able to lean on, trust in, and depend on the strength, the confidence, the boldness that comes from him. And let that press you, push you, encourage you to keep going when times get rough. So, once again, thank you for joining me. I truly hope that this helps you to make it through this upcoming week, and that you are able to be the great one that you were created to be. Thank you so much for joining me. And remember, you are well able, fully capable, and properly equipped to accomplish all that you were created to do. So make today and this week a great one.